Pacific Northwest vibes. You know,
Yeah.
I would listen to the shit out of that.
Welcome to the Rainy Day Rabbit Holes podcast, your escape from the mundane.
Dive into the rich history of the Pacific Northwest with us and let your mind wander down the rabbit hole.
Because in the Northwest, it's always raining something weird. In the late 1800s, the West really was wild, where the American dream was alive. And by the American dream, I mean stealing from the government. Today, I've got a scandalous tale of greed and corruption spanning 4 decades involving millionaire tycoons, U.S. senators, and even a belly dancer. I'm Shea.
And I'm Jody. Let's fall down the rabbit hole.
That's how you do it, Jason.
Yeah, well, you know, you can actually count down on fingers
I
and see
defended
each other.
you.
That
I
makes that a little
defended
bit
you on
easier.
that.
Welcome back to another episode of Rainy Day Rabbit Holes. Today, we have not one, but 2 very special guests joining us. First, we're thrilled to welcome Allison Gill, the brilliant, that's you. You're like, who, me?
Huh? Here, I'm here.
The brilliant host of the Daily Beans podcast, plus many, many more, like Clean Up on Aisle 45 and Jack.
Hello.
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 Allison spends her days up to her elbows in today's political scandals, diving deep into the latest headlines and unraveling the complexities of our current political landscape. So welcome, Allison. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Am I using this? Am I doing this right? Hello. Hello.
I know. If you need any tips or tricks.
The countdown was fantastic, you guys.
Yeah.
Why, thank you. Do you see we're in sync?
I want to see you guys do that blindfolded.
Yeah.
We'll see how well it goes then.
Thank you for having me. Seriously, this is great.
We are so thrilled, over the moon, to have you on the show today. We've been talking about it since you said, hey, I'll come on your show.
So excited.
So I want to take a moment and, just thank you for being here, because you record, 5 to 13 episodes a week? Something like that?
I have usually 9 shows a week. And then if I'm on tour, you add those shows on top of it, because I write different shows for the live shows as well. I don't like to do repeats.
Well, we were at your live show a couple days ago, and it was
Thrilling.
absolutely fantastic. We do appreciate you being here on your free time doing something that you normally do for a living. So
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm a nurse. I get called to bandage changes and skin checks and suture removal, so I get it.
Speaking of
Yeah, I
which,
know. I
got
have something I
need you to
want
look at.
you to take a look at. Yeah. See?
I'm here for it. Definitely.
yeah, so it's definitely not unnoticed that you're sacrificing your time for us. So we really appreciate you. So, both Jody and I listen to Daily Beans pretty much every day. If we skip a day, we make up for it the next day. So
I'm now a member of the Patreon.
All right.
Ooh,
Awesome.
welcome.
I know. Does she get a sticker?
It's coming in the mail. All this,
Stickers come in the mail. You get a set of stickers, and
I
then
did the coffee lover one.
you don't have to. You can it's basically you are getting a premium feed, so you don't have to listen to ads. That's basically.
Oh, all right.
It's basically the trade-off,
Okay. We really appreciate it, because you give us the political news we need without screaming,
but with swearing.
but with swearing, which I like, and with Eddie Izzard references.
Those are important. I find that if you leave Eddie Izzard out of your news narrative, there's really something missing.
It is. It just doesn't hit the same way.
Mm-hmm.
It's just doesn't have the journalistic standards
Mm-hmm.
without the Eddie Izzard quotes.
In fact, I record this show covered in bees.
Okay. Because you like your coffee like you like your women?
Right. With a spoon in them.
Ouch.
Yeah, you are a voice of clarity in these murky waters of information. So thank you for all of the work you do.
You're welcome.
It really helps to weed through all of the bullshit out there.
Yes.
So we really appreciate it.
Actually, I like my coffee like I like my men. Sliding off of the top of the car as I drive away.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Thank you. I don't. Someone tweeted that. I credit where credit is due. I can't remember who it was. That's not my joke, but I love it.
I
love it.
do love it.
So you had a couple of live shows this week. You were in Portland, and then you were in our beautiful city of Seattle.
Yes, Pacific Northwest mini tour, I guess, and it was absolutely fantastic. The people here are amazing. They're kind. They're wonderful. They'll go out of their way to say something nice to you, complete strangers.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. You don't get that a lot in Southern California. You know, I'm from the Midwest. That's more of a Midwestern thing, but I wouldn't have attributed that to anything on the West Coast. So it's just really refreshing that just the truly kind, generous, intelligent people who live up here. It's just and it's absolutely beautiful here as well. We happened to come on some sunny days, and I think I brought the temperate weather with me from San Diego because it dropped from 104 to 84. Yes, but you know, we Democrats do control the weather.
Absolutely.
Yes.
With our space lasers.
Of course.
Right.
That's a new one.
Marjorie Taylor Greene
Wow.
says that we have space lasers.
That's
Well, you came at a
fantastic.
good time of year because it is great weather, and that is when us Northwesterners are actually nice. We're not as nice.
I was
in the-
about to say it's because we get sun madness up here, and all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, the world isn't actually terrible. And we come out of our shells and we're like, hello, fellow human.
during the gray season. It's like, hey, see you later.
Yeah, they're like, fuck off. We'll make plans 3 years from now.
The Seattle chill gets put away for three months during
Yeah,
the
the
summer.
Seattle chill is like let's get together someday. And then you never hear from them again.
That's wrapped in a kindness, though. In Southern California, they don't even offer that.
Yeah.
It's not part of the package.
No.
They just step over you when you're on fire on the sidewalk.
Correct.
No, that's Phoenix.
That's true.
Or you're actually
They
on
drive
fire.
over you. in Phoenix.
That's true.
If you slow down, you're going to burst into flames. So you got to just keep moving. That's part of the program.
That's true.
Also joining Allison is our other very special guest, mine, Shea's own very big brother, not quite as good looking as me, but probably more intelligent. My big brother, Jason. Hi,
That's
Jason.
Not probably.
Visiting all the way from Phoenix, Arizona. So Jason got to join us at the show. It was just absolutely awesome. We had the best time. So if anybody ever has an inkling to go see a Daily Beans live show, do it. When's your next show dates?
August 16th in DC and August 24th in San Francisco. Come in. It's so much fun. We've sold out. So far, every single show has been sold out except the second Boston show. We had to add a second show because Boston one sold out. So it's so much fun. The energy is amazing. I think you will feel more energized and more positive after coming to a live taping. It's so much fun. And the meet and greets are great. We get to hang out, meet everybody. I love them. I get a bunch of energy from them. And I'm so thankful to all the listeners of the podcasts that are able to make it out. And Jason.
I know. I finally got to meet Allison.
Yeah.
Terrific.
I mean, it was your life's ambition.
Yeah, I know. Finally got to actually meet her.
Okay, so I've known Jason since we went to college together in the early 90s.
College round one.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah, no, we met at Northern Arizona University, where I was a creative writing major, and you were a what?
Civil engineer
Barely
major.
going to school. I don't know.
Party time.
Majored in fed.
Professional fuck up.
Now you're a college professor.
I know, Professor
Strangely
Jason.
enough,
That's
I
so
know.
weird to say.
In addition to other stuff. Yeah.
We wanted to give Allison a break from the chaos of modern politics. I know. It's like taking your bra off.
Oh, God.
Don't do that, though. We're
Sweet.
going.
I can take my bra off.
You can
That's
take your bra off,
fantastic.
yes. Or those man titties.
Wow, Jason, I didn't expect it to be so lacy.
I'm fancy.
That's real pretty.
Is that a heart in the middle?
Hey, it makes me feel sexy. Okay, that's what counts.
Oh wait, it's a bow.
I mean, I love it. It just didn't seem like
that
you.
front closer too.
I know.
That's really well. That's well chosen.
It must be the
Gotta make it
frozen
easy.
shoulder every
Oh,
once
it's
in
a
a while.
little
Can't get
push
back
up. I
there.
didn't realize that it wasn't all him. So we're going to take a trip back in time to discuss political scandals. So we're going to discuss political scandals where everyone is already dead.
Oh.
So we can make fun of their mustaches to
So-
our heart's content.
It's like modern politics in that we won't hold anyone accountable.
Oh,
That's right.
snaps.
Okay, the end. That's the whole story. Thank you, everyone, for being okay. All right, you guys ready? I'm going to set the mood. Dawn's first light filtered through the towering canopy of ancient redwoods, casting ethereal beams upon the forest floor below. Each giant stood like a sentinel of time, their immense trunks draped in verdant mosses and delicate ferns, whispering secrets of centuries past. In the tranquil silence, the only sounds were the gentle rustle of leaves high above, the melody of a few songbirds, and the distant murmur of a hidden stream. The air was cool and crisp, tinged with the earthy aroma of pine and damp soil, a testament to the unspoiled wilderness that lay untouched by human hands. Here, in this sacred grove, the redwoods reigned supreme. It could have been a time before humans ever stepped foot on the dense carpet of needles. Unfortunately, it was 1875. The sharp, rhythmic clanging of axes striking wood broke through the sacred silence, sending the birds into the air. Men shouted commands, and the saws, wielded by pairs of dirty lumberjacks, groaned and screeched as they bit into the dense trunks. The cracking and popping of splintering wood added to the din, and a deep, resonant creaking filled the air. The creaking grew into a mighty roar as the majestic, ancient tree crashed to the ground with a thunderous spoon, shaking the earth. The timbermen had arrived, and the vast groves of trees that covered the fertile lands in Northern California and Oregon would soon fall under the axe and colossal greed of humankind.
Wow, Shea, you went hard on your creative writing skills.
Wait, I wasn't going to get a boom, boom, boom.
Oh, boom, 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 boom. Oh, yeah.
Boom. And my mom was really upset because she planted the redwood.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, I got a birthday card from my mom one year, and it said the redwoods on the front, and it said, "You remind me of the steadfastness of the beauty and of the redwoods, et cetera, like kind of what your opening was." And you open it up, and it says, "Thanks for planting them." Happy birthday!
That's amazing.
Did she have a mailbox at Machu Picchu as well?
Right?
Laid those first stones for the pyramids.
Yeah.
Wow.
So one man stood by while the burly, bearded men labored. Let's pause for a moment. Picture a lumberjack.
Yeah.
No, not the 1880s kind.
Oh.
But the kind you'd see on Instagram.
Wait, why am I disappointed?
Chopping wood with his shirt off.
On Instagram, huh?
Mm-hmm. Have you not seen the...
That's what I'm talking about.
The guy, yeah. Well, we were in the 1880s. I didn't want anybody to think of an 1880s lumberjack because he's probably scrawny and really dirty and smells.
Hey, I'm not picturing that.
No?
There were lumberjanes, so,
Oh, okay. That's what you're going for. Yeah. No, I'm going for the guy chopping wood with his shirt off on Instagram. Maybe in a kilt.
They had,
There's probably a handful of lumberjacks in the 1880s that showered.
Possibly.
And read books.
There's probably a couple lumberjanes that didn't have beards either. So that's good.
All right, so now we've got that image. You guys are fucking perverts. Anyway, the man standing by was a slight man with small glasses perched on his long nose. He pushed his hat back on his head and made some notes in the dog-eared notebook he carried. Meet Stephen Arnold Douglas Pewter, or Sad P for short.
Little Sad P.
Is that his
Sad
rapper
P.
name?
What's up, Sad P? Either that or he's got a medical issue he needs to get looked at.
Right. An unassuming man who was actually one of the most important figures in the timber industry. He's the guy who knew where the good timber was, when it would be available for plunder, whose palms to grease to get it. You're looking at the Land Fraud King.
Dun, dun, dun.
Self-titled.
Self-taught. Oh, he titled himself.
The Land Fraud King.
He did. He called himself the Land Fraud King. Mm-hmm. That's like when my friend Lev Parnas and Rudy Giuliani put together their business called Fraud Guarantee. You were pretty much guaranteed a fraud, and it was funded by a very fantastic man, Dmitry Firtash. Wonderful man, Russian, love him.
Oh my God. It all started innocently enough. Stephen began as an axeman for the United States Deputy Surveyor, helping to map and survey public lands in the West. It was a good job, although physically strenuous. He would cruise. That's what they called it back then. It's not what you're thinking of.
I was going to say.
He would cruise the plats that they were working on surveying, cutting vegetation, clearing line of sight paths.
So the definition of cruising has changed, as has the definition of axeman.
I don't know. He might have been into those sexy lumberjacks.
Just standing out there in the trees while everybody's cutting around him, just ripping it.
You a drummer? No, I'm more of an axeman. Land fraud king. Or, and another person I'm reminded of is the subprime car loan king.
Yes.
That guy who went out and lied and said he was a florist and would call active duty service members and trick them so that he could come and illegally repossess their cars, which had exorbitant interest rates on them.
Oh.
That's the guy who actually guaranteed Trump's bond, $175 million bond for his $464 million disgorgement fine that was just awarded to New York Attorney General Letitia James. Anyway.
Always
nothing
surrounded with good people.
What's the problem here?
So we got subprime car loan guy. We got the fraud guarantee guy. What we might as well throw in the sausage king of Chicago.
Land fraud king.
Did the pillow guy ever call himself the pillow king?
I've heard him referred to as the pillow magnate.
There we go.
That's really funny to me.
The pillows are.
But he has also liquidated everything that he owns and filed for bankruptcy. So, womp womp.
Okay, so you guys, I have a confession to make.
Wasn't he playing bass?
Way before this all happened,
You had a My Pillow.
and I already bought them, and so I still have them.
I wish you were listening to the Daily Beans back then, because we were offering to replace people's My Pillows.
Damn it! Okay, look, if you want to replace my two My Pillows,
That's amazing.
I'm happy to accept a coupon for, what is it, purple? Do you guys have? Oh, Helix. Does Helix do a pillow?
Yeah, Helix actually 30% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows at helixsleep.com/dailybeans.
Look at that. They got a free spot on my...
Dude, 30%.
Come
I'm in.
sponsor us.
Wait, don't you have Helixes in home shop?
Zionist.
Oh,
You spelled Helix wrong.
He
bless you.
Stephen, or Sad P, was also learning a lot at this job. Beyond the technical aspects of surveying, he was also learning the legal framework of the various land laws. That might come in handy later. Now let's talk about 2 crucial pieces of legislation for our story. You ready? I saw you perk up. You're like, legislation? Legislation?
I'm ready. We were just at Allen Thistle. They have all the legislation books on the wall.
Let's see, is this in it?
Oh, then this will be in it. I mean, this was pretty crucial to the forming of the United States. So this is one of the things that helped us to legitimize taking the lands from the indigenous people who lived here. Oh, wait, that's not what this podcast is about. Okay, so first up, the Homestead Act of 1862. Have you heard of this one?
I have heard of the Homestead Act.
It aimed to promote the settlement and development of the American West. It allowed any adult U.S. citizen or, and remember this loophole, any adult who intended to become a citizen to claim up to 160 acres of public land to be homesteaded. Now, there were certain requirements. Claimants were required to live on the land for 5 years, build a home, and make some sort of improvements to the land, such as farming. Then, after the 5 years had passed and the requirements had been met, they could file for a patent. So patents were used interchangeably with deed. So when you hear patent, it's not like patenting an invention. It was your deed to the land. After 6 months of residency, they could purchase the land at $1.25 per acre. And like I said, let's just breeze past the fact that this whole thing displaced, hundreds of thousands of indigenous people who were already here. Excuse me? What's all this then?
Do you have a flag?
You have a flag.
No flag, no country. These are the rules I've just made up.
No system of ownership. Interesting.
That might come in handy later.
But don't worry, we all keep our promises. There's more of us coming, but we all keep our promises.
Then backing it up with this gun lent to me
By the National Rifle Association. That's all Eddie Izzard. Please go watch Dress to Kill.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right, I'll have to do it.
Because surprise, surprise, Jody hasn't seen it. She hasn't seen anything. Have you ever heard of the Timber and Stone Act of 1878?
Mm-mm.
Sounds fancy.
No, that's a new one. I know the Homestead Act.
Well, it's not a new one because it was 1878.
New one to me. New one to me, Shea.
It's another crucial piece of legislation we need to talk about for the story. This law aimed to promote the sale of public lands in the West, especially those deemed unfit for farming, but rich in valuable timber and mineral resources. Sounds like that might be interesting to somebody?
Someone's going to want it.
Yep. Like the Homestead Act, you had to be a citizen or at least claim you intended to become one.
Oh,
Like
wait, hang
Rupert
on.
Murdoch.
I thought we were talking about the Homeboy Act of 1982 with Sad P. Like, what's going on here? I'm lost.
What are you drinking over there, Jason?
Yeah, right.
So these pieces of legislation were intended for individuals to settle in the West, not corporations.
But corporations are people.
I was going to say, corporations are people. That's exactly what I was thinking.
With the Timber and Stone Act, individuals could purchase up to 160 acres at $2.50 per acre. So it wasn't just them giving them the land, though that's pretty much giving them the land. There was a little cost involved, and there were a couple of hoops to jump through. So you had to appear at the local land office and file a sworn statement that the land was unfit for farming. So you just had to be like, yeah, dude.
Honor system. Swear it's not fit for farming.
It's just crap. It's total junk. And they intended to acquire the land for personal use. They had to select a specific parcel of surveyed land. So the U.S. Department of Surveying was going out west and they were surveying these big townships. And then they were releasing the land to the public for homesteading or through this Timber and Stone Act. So it had to have already been surveyed. So you weren't supposedly supposed to be able to claim the land, but that hadn't been surveyed, but people were. So there were loopholes for that, which we will get to.
The way you keep saying timber and stone, I keep thinking it's Tim Burton.
Tim Burton Stones.
Tim Burton gets stoned.
Daily. So they had to provide, allegedly, proof of eligibility and pay a filing fee. So this was your claim or entry. This is all boring. We're going to get to the good stuff, but this is setting the groundwork for what's to come. Then they had to publish a notice of their claim in the local newspaper to give others a chance to object if they believed the claim was invalid. After the paperwork was filed, they had to quote unquote, prove up the land by establishing some sort of residence on the parcel, improving the land in some fashion, and living on it for 8 to 10 months. After fulfilling these requirements, the claimant would file the proof of compliance, which might include affidavits from neighbors or other witnesses.
Now, see, if we had TikTok back then, you'd be able to go, we would have 1 billion like BTS fans going out and reporting fraudulent Timberstone claims. But yeah, we probably didn't have any people out there.
Could raise the flag. And
Probably not. I think indoor toilets were still a novel idea.
Also, if I'm living on the land, it's already improved.
Exactly.
I'm fabulous.
That's all it takes. You're very
That's all it
present.
takes. Very humble.
Well, you just got to
Very, very
build an
humble.
outhouse, right? And then you're...
Dude, that's an improvement.
Bang, that's an improvement.
You got a toilet.
Well,
That's an improvement. You aren't pooping in the woods.
That's improving
That's
the
an
land.
improvement to me. I don't know about you guys.
basically. So if all was good, you pay your final fees, you're issued your patent or your deed, and you go your merry way. So I know this is all sounds like boring mumbo jumbo, legal mumbo jumbo, but it's crucial to our story. Allison, you are used to getting through boring legal mumbo jumbo. So
That's my favorite
stay
stuff.
with me. All right.
It's my favorite stuff.
So besides learning the ins and outs of these laws, not to mention the potential loopholes that we've already seen, through his job with the U.S. Surveyor, Sad P or Stephen was also making friends. He befriended people in conveniently important roles: surveyor's office, local land offices, inspectors, lawyers, politicians. He also had insider knowledge of upcoming land surveys and government land grants. So think about the advantage that gave him. He already knew when a township was going to be surveyed. He knew when it would be available. He knew where it was. He knew where the good timber was before the public did.
Do we know how he had this insider knowledge?
Because he was working for the U.S. Surveyor Department.
Oh, so he was the insider.
You know where he was like playing the guitar in the woods?
Yes.
Right.
Gotcha.
Cruising.
Serious axeman.
He was assisting the surveyor's office to survey new townships and was therefore observing the rich and plentiful timber on these lands where the best groves of trees were. So our buddy Stevens started a pretty lucrative side hustle. #girlboss.
Don't drag girls into this.
As soon as the surveys for the new townships were approved, the rush for the timber claims would begin. So Stephen would sell his insider knowledge of the best claims for $25 per claim, around $700 today. And at the same time, he took out a contract to build a cabin on those claims, which is proving it up, for an additional $25. These were never meant to be lived in. They were made with scrapped wood. They were 12 by 16, one window and a fireplace. They were simply meant to be evidence of a homestead claim.
Shells.
That's like the size
So
of my
for a-
condo. That's fantastic. What
For
are you
a
talking about?
nominal fee, I will get you this land for free.
Basically.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll improve it. I'll take care of all the yeah, it's like
I'll lock it in for you. I'll make the improvements on it. I'll set
Yeah.
it up. You just got to give me a little fig on the side.
Most entrymen,
it's like I have an annuity, but I need cash now. This is the J.G. Wentworth of the 1800s.
Do you, J.G. Wentworth, please advertise with us. I will sing that song for you.
Oh, no. They just
We
declined.
will- Allison will sing. No, she did not agree to that. So most entrymen never spent the night there.
For 700 in today's dollars, I will.
Didn't that guy have a spear and a helmet?
Spear and magic
A
helmet.
spear and magic.
And he wants them back.
Don't we know somebody that wants their spear and magic helmet back?
Yes. Jacob Chansley, this QAnon shaman, has written a letter to the Department of Justice demanding his spear and magic helmet be returned.
I would just like a
Magic
spear and
helmet.
magic helmet.
Magic
period.
helmet?
So look,
Magic helmet.
I'm a crafter, and I know that you could buy something for $50, or you could spend $137 to go to the craft store, buy the materials for it, and then spend 14 hours making it into something that is slightly worse than what you could have bought for $50. And so I understand wanting that back. That was a lot of work to put into crafting. I mean, he probably had his glue gun out,
No,
some puff paint.
I think he bought it.
You don't think that he crafted that?
No way.
Oh,
No
come
way.
on. No, don't ruin my fantasy of
No,
him
he's not
sitting
crafting
there
that.
with
There's
his
no
glue
way.
gun, burning his
I don't know.
fingers.
He crafted
There's
all
no
of his
way.
own makeup, didn't he?
Look,
That was pretty crafty.
I
And
mean,
as
if you're
any-
crafting narratives, you might as well craft your own
as any
stuff, I guess,
craft
right?
girl knows, because glitter is the herpes of the craft world, he's probably got glitter on him. There's probably glitter on that helmet.
God.
There's probably herpes on that helmet.
I wouldn't be surprised. So soon after the final proof was made, Stephen brokered the sale of the tract to a Eureka capitalist for $800 to $1,200 per claim. The 160 acres was one claim, who then sold it on to the California Redwood Company for $25 per acre. So remember, they were purchased at $2.50 per acre.
But I thought this law was designed for individuals.
Well, you thought correct, but
Individual
The individuals
Corporations.
sold the individuals then sold their land to a corporation.
exactly.
So we have our first money laundering. Well, probably not,
Not
the
first, no.
But yeah,
early wonder.
early shell companies.
Right. So they then transferred the tract to the Humboldt Mill and Lumber Company, who then processed the timber into lumber with a value of around $200 to $300 per acre. So remember, purchased from the government for $2.50. By the end, the value $300 per acre. Fun fact, the Humboldt Mill and Lumber Company was started by the Corbell brothers. Yes, those Corbell brothers, the famous winemakers.
The
Oh.
famous-
Champagne?
Yep.
Oh, I thought
Brut.
Corbel, like-
the ice cream guys.
Oh, no. That's
No, it's
Carvel.
Carvel. that's Fudgy the Whale. Just
Are you
keep that in
thinking
mind.
about ice cream again?
Was I thinking about James Carville? No.
No, James Carvel. Ooh.
So before the Timber and Stone Act of 1873, Stephen discovered he could make good money by defrauding the government out of public lands. Initially, claimants didn't need to personally examine the land or appear at the land office for the final proof. So they just had to show up at the land office, file their claim, show citizenship papers, or take an oath to become a citizen. So if you weren't a citizen, you just had to be like, yep, I'm going to be a citizen. And they'd be like, cool.
A promise ring, a citizen promise ring from the government.
Exactly. And then they just filed the claims at the land office.
Could the indigenous people do this?
No, of
Okay.
course not. They are not actually a full human.
What if they
Yeah.
promise to be citizens?
They're not considered people.
promise to
I
be
promise to be a person. I swear I am.
So the law was later amended to require the in-person final proof, but under the original terms, it was easy to make hundreds of fraudulent claims. So the California Redwood Company sent agents to Eureka's sailor boarding houses. They hired sailors by the dozens to declare their intention to become citizens. These were a lot of British soldiers. At the courthouse, and then file land claims at the land office. They would sign a blank deed before the notary, collect $50, return to their ships, go on. And so these companies acquired entire townships this way.
Oh, signing blank deeds.
Yep.
Totes normal. Just like all of
Absolutely legal.
those fraudulent doctors who would sign blank COVID vaccine forms. And then you could go ahead and prove
Fill it out when you have a chance.
that you had the vaccine when you
Right.
didn't.
I was
Right.
there. I saw it.
Oh, did you?
Oh, hey, we do have an insider on that one. So you actually
Stacks
saw
of
that
cards
happen.
just sitting there.
No.
Just signed and ready to go.
Signed and ready to
Just
rock.
put in anybody's name.
Well, they had the date. They were pre-made to make it easy for us. We were doing the vaccine clinics, trying to do as many people as possible, but stacks of cards sitting there pre-filled out with the
Mm-hmm.
with
So it
the
would
lot
be-
number and the date, and we're all ready to go. Well, some went missing.
Yeah. Got knocked on the floor.
And then the rest
some were
is
under
filled
the
out with a
desk.
pen, and then
fell,
you just
fell
write
off the back of the truck.
Now,
Right.
if
Oops.
you really wanted to check, they should have been registered with the Department of Health. But I used my phone, said this is my vaccination, because without the card, that wouldn't happen. I had to do it in the computer for it to go through the Department of Health to verify it. But if you had the card and didn't back that up, then you had a card.
So the General Land Office eventually discovered the fraud, suspended unpatented claims, and sent out special agents. But of course, most agents could be bribed. Only one stood up, Special Agent B.F. Bergen. And so 150 to 200 claims were suspended, and there were indictments of company members, but they just paid off prosecution and were just let go. So, nothing happened.
So the charges were dropped. Oh.
So after the Humboldt County fraud investigations, it was feeling a little hot for Stephen, so he moved to Oregon, where the timber industry was booming. Timber barons from the Midwest and East Coast eagerly sought profitable lumber, sending thousands of men into Tillamook and Clatsop counties. The surge in filings overwhelmed the local land offices and raised suspicion in Washington, D.C. Special agents were sent to investigate, but again, they were just bribed, so nothing happened. Thousands of acres of prime timber claims in Oregon were fraudulently obtained for East Coast timber barons. So
Wow.
most of our land out here on the West Coast was basically stolen by the timber barons, the lumber barons, from the government. Nice job.
So they frauded our fraudulent government.
Sure.
Okay.
They defrauded our bribable government.
Yes,
Got it.
exactly. Well, let's take a little break.
In the shadows of history lies tales of unimaginable darkness. From the hidden atrocities to the sinister secrets buried by time. Join me, Rob Bradley, as we delve into the depths of humanity's dark past, uncovering the chilling stories that history hoped you'd forgotten. Prepare yourselves for the macabre and the mysterious as we journey through tales of tyranny, betrayal, and bloodshed. Discover the forgotten massacres, the twisted minds of infamous villains, and the haunting echoes of crimes that shook the world. This isn't just history. This is dark history. Join me in the exploration of the darkest chapters of our past. Listen now on your preferred podcast provider, if you dare.
In the fall of 1890, Stephen met a key partner for his land fraud schemes, Franklin Pierce Mays, United States Attorney for Oregon. Mays was keen on acquiring top-tier timberland and soon became involved of most of Stephen's fraudulent deals, serving as legal counsel when needed. This is the United States Attorney for Oregon.
Okay.
Not anybody important.
Right. Just average Joe.
Yeah. Soon after, Stephen partnered with civil engineer Willard N. Jones, who had connections with eastern timber barons. They devised a plan to claim uncharted land rich in yellow fir along the Nehalem River in Tillamook County. Using Stephen's insider knowledge, they found a surveyed but unaccepted tract. So they would do the survey and then they would submit it to be accepted by the government, and then it would be released to the public. So they enlisted 40 men to file 80 claims so they could file under the Timber and Stone Act and under the Homestead Act. So you could actually do 2 claims of 160 acres each.
Oh, good grief.
Which is 320.
320.
Come on, Shea.
I can do it. I can do it. It's hot in here.
It's maths. It's maths.
So that's 12,800 acres that they were fraudulently filing on.
Jeez.
They built basic cabins for $10 each and lobbied for government approval of the survey. Corrupt officials, including the U.S. Deputy Surveyor, Henry Meldrum, were bribed to list these claimants as residents in the survey field notes, giving them a preference right for 90 days. So if you were already on the land that was being surveyed as an original homesteader before the Homestead Act, you had right to file claim to it before anybody else. So this guy would go in to do the survey, and he would just fill in the names of Steve's dudes that he picked up off the sailor boarding houses or whatever, that these people were already here, so they could file those claims before the public could.
Right of first refusal.
Yep, exactly.
This is all around the time, by the way, that Laura Ingalls became Laura Ingalls Wilder. I just wanted to put that out there.
Sorry, I immediately thought you were talking about Dr. Laura. I was like, she got real problematic real fast.
Oh, Laura Schlesinger? No. No. Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum.
Oh, gosh,
Dum, dum, da-dum, da, 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 da. Nellie was a bitch.
Yes, Nellie was the
I
worst.
was so excited when Laura pushed her down
Pushed it
stairs.
upstairs. Yeah. Yeah, you can tell who the young one in the
no idea
room
what the
is
fuck you're
because
talking
she's
about.
like sitting over there in the corner going like,
Huh?
what?
Okay.
This is Little House on the Prairie.
I just wanted to
Shay.
set the time scene for
Yeah, yeah.
everyone.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah,
now-
like if you've
I
seen
now-
Deadwood or Little House on the Prairie,
Yes.
we're right around
Yeah,
that
exactly.
time
Whoa,
period.
Deadwood and Little House on the Prairie are very different.
There's a lot less
things.
murder in one.
Crossing a lot of genres with the getting the description out there.
swearing
She's
and
covering a
other
lot of
things.
bases.
Well, there were families like the Ingalls, and then there were families like, Swearingen.
Yeah, so
So another common scam was the in lieu of fraud, where claimants could swap land designated for schools or other government land. You would make a claim because you knew that the government was going to survey that land for a school. So you would make a claim on that before they surveyed it for a school, and then the government would be like, we're going to put a school here. And you're like, oh, shucks. You're going to have to give me something else. And then they could pick any other government-owned land in lieu of those claims.
So what determines a school? I mean, because I could be teaching people how to be fabulous, and that's a school. Jason's school. of
Isn't that what you're
fabulous.
professor of right
they're not
now?
determining
professor of fabulousness.
You are. They're not determining what the schools are. They're just surveying it for the school board or
Okay.
for the school
Or
district.
other federal land use.
Right,
Yeah, or
exactly.
other
That
stuff.
sort of thing. So it was the in lieu of things. So Stephen knew where the surveys were going to be. And also,
God, what a scam!
it was pretty easy to bribe the people that were doing the surveys for the school board.
I'm surprised somebody didn't name this dude the land fraud king. Like, I'm really kind of
He named
surprised.
Clever.
That's land fraud. Yeah, it's well thought up.
Oh man,
But
That's kinda crazy.
that's one of the greatest downfalls of our federal government is that they are bribable, right? Because, I mean, we think about Justice Clarence Thomas. If we would have given him more than $9 million over the last 20 years, maybe we would be able to tell him how to rule on certain things. I know John Oliver offered him a brand new luxury motor coach and $2 million if he would step down from the bench, right?
Wasn't
And he
quite
didn't
enough.
take it. I'll
But
take that.
the problem is the rich people in the country are the
Yes.
ones with all the money.
Yes.
And they are the ones who have the money to buy our government officials. And that puts those of us who need our government to do the right thing at a severe disadvantage.
So where do you start buying those government officials? Is there like a wacky inflatable
It's like
dude?
eBay for government.
Depends
Is there
on
a
your
sign
budget.
up?
And this corrupt Supreme Court is the one setting the rules for
Right.
itself.
Yes.
Yes.
Insane.
And
it is insane.
and gutting our bribery laws, which they are recipients of.
Allison, what you don't understand is that
They're ring rates.
Bahamas vacations are expensive.
Did you say the ring wraiths?
Yeah, the
They are
nine ring rates.
Yes, they are.
Of the they are.
That's
Come
what I
on.
thought you said.
Yeah, the ring rates.
So in 1900, Stephen partnered with Charles Axel Smith. Now we need to bring back the name Axel. I mean, there's the Axl Rose, but
I mean, do we?
yes. He's a Minnesota lumber baron to locate prime timberland, also eyed by the Northern Pacific Railroad Company. Another
Oh.
giant,
Railroad barons are coming into the picture now.
another
Oh, man.
giant
Now it's
She
getting
called me a
perpetrator.
fascist, but I don't control the rail. Love that movie.
another giant perpetrator of land fraud against the American government. Stephen and his buddies filed claims on 9,120 acres, and they even got discounted train fare for their entrymen to go to the land office.
I mean, if you're gonna do it, just go all the way.
Different railroad companies. So they were eyeing land that the railroad company wanted, but they got in there first, filed their claims. So the railroad company found out and then sued him. His partner, Horace McKinley, his new partner, was finally arrested for perjury and conspiracy. But then they've got this lawyer buddy who his brother was the assistant U.S. attorney, Edward P. Mays. So he's like, don't worry. I'm going to get my brother to prosecute the case, and he's going to make sure that the charges are dismissed. So they show up to court, and he got his brother. Lo and behold, their attorney showed up as defense for the Northern Pacific Railroad companies. Like, I didn't tell you that I'm their attorney on call.
Oh my God.
I love that. The railroad barons are like, how dare you defraud the government? That's our job.
Right.
Stepping on our turf, bro.
So eventually they had to split the claims with the railway company, but there was ongoing investigations into this fraud, which was delaying the claims. So this is where we get bigger players in here. So this timber baron called upon his powerful friends. One was U.S. Senator John H. Mitchell. He met with C.A. Smith's attorney Cribbs and agreed to expedite these claims for $25 per claim, by which he was paid by check.
Cash. Always get cash.
Always get cash. So on June 4th, 1897, the Forest Management Act, also known as the Organic Act, was passed, establishing forest reserves and eventually leading to the formation of the Forest Service. This act allowed individuals with legal title to land within a new forest reserve to exchange it for an equivalent amount of other government land. So Stephen and his cronies identified a township that was in the Cascade Forest Reserve, and it was a remote rocky area, unlikely to be inspected for homesteads. So he used false names, filed claims, and claimed that they had been homesteading for 5 years. They served as witnesses for each other for the affidavits of homesteading. And despite none of these men ever having visited the land, their homesteading claims were approved within weeks because now they've got Senator Mitchell on their side. This was fun. So a few weeks later, a man from a nearby town hinted that he knew that no one lived on this claimed land and that if they did not pay him off, he was going to turn them in. So they paid him off, but a couple weeks later, special agents showed up knocking. They sent the special agent out with one of their cronies out there to show them the quote-unquote homesteads. Mm-hmm. Rocky, remote, not many people lived out there. So he took him on this long, winding route and showed this agent one cabin 3 times from different angles.
Same one. Hilarious.
And he's like, okay, I've seen enough. You're good to go.
I saw three structures.
Strangely, there was a scam like this for racing. You had to have like a certain amount of cars. And they literally took like, hey, here's all the cars we have. We're going to take you out to lunch and we'll take you to another parking lot. While they were at lunch, they moved all the cars to the other parking lot. So they only had to have
nice. So despite this, further investigations by forest superintendents resulted in the claims being denied. So Mays suggested that Stephen visit Senator Mitchell in Washington, D.C. So he heads out there and visits Mitchell in his office and bribes him with $2,000 cash, which is about $75,000 in today's money. And lo and behold, the patents were finally issued. So now, folks, I am reading a book for this called Looters of the Public Domain that is 508 pages and 31 chapters.
Exciting.
Are you reading it out loud right now?
This is only chapter 7.
Like I told
Can you
get
imagine?
Fred from the B-52s to read it for you.
I know.
It'd be way more entertaining.
So this guy is so long-winded. So Stephen Pewter is the author of this book, by the way. The land fraud king himself.
He's
the author of the book.
Oh my God, he wrote his own book.
Documenting
he's
land
around,
fraud.
or was this an old book?
This was written in 1907.
Okay.
You can probably guess, from prison.
Wow.
Aren't there laws against
Not then.
profiting off of books
1907.
written from prison? This guy is just a fraud.
He's owning
Dude,
it.
He's
owning it.
cojones on this guy
Yeah.
are just
So
insane. Like
it
the balls
gets better.
of this
So
dude.
this was all leading up to this was the boring part of it. There are many more descriptions of massive land frauds by Stephen and his cronies, but we've now
Sure.
grasped how it works, right? I think
Right.
we have a pretty good idea of what he does, how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Let's skip ahead to the final downfall of the land fraud king,
Go for it.
which we will do after the break.
Do you like history, but want to learn something new?
You mean something old?
like pre-1900s old.
Yeah, that.
Remember the episode about murder?
Which one? There were a lot of them.
Or all the forgotten women in history that are actually pretty awesome.
How about all those cannibalism episodes?
No.
If any of this has sparked your interest, then you should join us every Wednesday for new episodes of Ye Olde Crime.
It's the show where Lindsay and I discuss funny, strange, and obscure crimes with some paranormal stuff sprinkled in. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
And we'll see you next time with another tale
As old as crime.
Started with a crazy priest. Reverend Joseph Shell of Tillamook, Oregon, saw his poor parishioners ousted from their land claims through fraud. He began investigating, tracking the agents to their banker and lawyer. He gathered facts, records, evidence, then took his findings to local land offices, the U.S. District Attorney, the Interior Department in Washington, and the newspapers. Instead of raising an alarm, Father Shell was ridiculed, threatened, and rebuked by his own church. Despite writing to the Secretary of the Interior, Ethan Allen Hitchcock, and appealing to Senator Mitchell, well, fat good that's going to do you, nothing happened. Known as the Crazy Priest, Shell's persistence eventually piqued Hitchcock's suspicions, leading to an investigation.
Wait, hang on. This is Ethan Allen Hitchcock. So he made fantastic furniture and really
Scary
good
movies,
films.
yeah.
Fantastic.
I think so.
I'm on
Scary furniture movies.
I like that. That's even better. Scary furniture movies.
It happened in the armoire.
The settee that knew too much.
Well, I mean, your butt's on it, so it does know too much.
Deathbed.
Don't wake
oh, wait,
it up.
that's
Don't
one.
wake it up.
Don't wake them.
Have you ever thought about how your chair feels? I'm sorry.
No.
What you going to do now? Another source of the fraud's discovery was a letter from Arizona lawyer Juiced. We should bring back the name Juiced. Joost. Juiced.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
what?
100%.
Or is
That's
it
a
Jost?
fantastic name.
Jost.
Either one, Jost or Juiced.
Used. Maybe it's a soft J like
Ooh,
yogging.
Juiced.
No, is it a malt beverage with caffeine added? That's juiced.
Juiced. Kombucha juiced.
Juiced R. Schneider. He exposed a conspiracy that he was involved with
course.
land speculators Frederick A. Hyde and John A. Benson in California and Arizona. They were doing the same thing except for mineral rights because there wasn't a lot of timber in Phoenix.
Copper.
These two orchestrated grand-scale frauds using dummy homesteaders on school lands and mapping forest reserves to cover these claims. So they would actually go in, map out the reserve, and then give it to the government official and say, you should map this one because it favors us.
And then call me when you're done.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised. I mean, that's one of the 3 C's of Arizona. It's
Correct.
copper,
Five
cotton,
C's.
corruption. Is it 5 C's?
It's now 6.
It's 6.
Okay, give me the 6 C's.
Climate, cattle, cotton, citrus, copper, corruption.
Oh,
Wow.
fantastic. Wow. Well, you're a better Arizonan than I am.
I know my state seals, bitch. I don't know why I keep saying bitch today. It's so rude.
It's because you're hot. You're bitchy. B.F. Allen, the forest superintendent of Los Angeles, would accept their maps and recommend the reserves to his officials. They exploited in lieu thereof claims to claim prime timber and mineral-rich lands, which they sold at great profits. Their fraud involved many clerks from the Land Office and the Department of the Interior, the Surveyor General, and possibly Governor Henry T. Graft of California. Almost every single school selection entry in California and Arizona were bogus at that time.
Wow.
Arizona only has 2 schools, so that's okay.
There's
And
only
this
like
is
5
the early
people.
1900s, so this is before statehood for Arizona, really.
Yeah.
Right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
1912.
Yeah, this was late 1800s, early 1900s. So the big trials began in, I think, 1903. So it was all leading up to this. Now, this had been going on for 4 decades.
Oh.
Holy smokes.
Hitchcock approached Binger Herman, the commissioner of the General Land Office, with these accusations.
And
Now,
a script for the birds. What do you think?
That's right.
That's
I
where it
can't get
started
over
from.
these names.
I know.
Binger. We need to bring that name. Juiced, Binger, Axel.
Juiced Binger, Axel Hitchcock,
Ethan Allen.
and Ethan Allen.
Ethan Allen.
Who was like Ethan Allen the Fourth?
I don't know. Where's Coors in this story? He's got to
We had
come up
Corbell.
somewhere, right?
Yeah, we got Corbell. And
So Herman admitted to possible misconduct because he knew about all of it. He was part of it. So Hitchcock demanded his resignation, but Herman was like, look, my daughter's getting married soon, and it would just be so devastating to the family if I resigned now. So he ran crying to Senator Mitchell, who we already have established as part of this fraud. And he's like, you can delay your resignation until after your daughter's wedding. Well, Herman took this opportunity to go into his office and burn 35 letter books, claiming they were personal.
Oh, so it's like it's like Mark Meadows' hero.
Yeah.
No shit. Yeah, that's amazing.
Who
You come to
burns
me
document after document after document.
on the day of my daughter's birthday.
Right. It was his daughter's wedding.
I'm sorry, the day of my daughter's
Right.
wedding.
The Oregonian calculated that if true, Herman would have written 10 personal letters daily throughout his term. He was indicted on charges from evidence destruction to conspiracy to commit fraud, but 2 juries failed to convict him. Despite the scandal, he was reelected to his congressional seat 4 months later.
Is he a
Oh, it
Republican?
Probably helped him.
Yeah. Yes.
Legend.
So Hitchcock knew this fraud ran deep. He hired the star of the Secret Service, investigator William J. Burns. Burns was an old school. Exactly. Burns was an old school detective, the kind you read about in books.
Smithers.
His suspicion was universal. The president once complained that Burns thought everyone was a thief until proven innocent.
They kind of are in this story.
To which Burns replied, well, they are here in Washington.
I was going to say it.
Thank you.
Me and Burns. Take it along the same
Burns, my
line.
boy.
Burns uncovered
Too much.
Burns uncovered a stream of corruption from Washington through the land office of the Interior Department to California. The timber barons and the Southern Pacific Railroad, which had corrupted state government and California's representation in the Senate, House, and Executive Department, were deeply involved. The railroad was also in the in lieu of land business. And Hyde and Benson, who we mentioned a couple paragraphs ago, they would draw maps to bypass railroad land so that they didn't piss off the railroad.
Well, you know.
Because that's where they'd really
they're
find
probably smart.
consequences.
Don't want to piss
Yeah.
off the railroad.
That's the
I
only
don't care
place
about
there
the
were
government.
consequences.
We're not going to piss off the railroads. Deeper pockets than anybody else.
For real. And the ability to
Yes.
move stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
You need to get your shit out there to cut down those trees. You got to talk to us.
Need to get the timber somewhere. Yeah. I mean,
Right, exactly.
You got to move it back to the East Coast. You got to talk to us.
Well, you piss somebody off and you're not going to get a depot in your town where you need it.
right.
They're going to be like, we're going to go to Tacoma instead.
There's a million ways the railroad could make your life miserable.
Absolutely.
You know, you piss me off and you won't get a good grade on your design project.
I don't think that's
That's
going
what
to
you-
ruin
that's
a
what you get.
statehood.
A death knell to commerce.
That's right. Death now.
So while investigating land frauds in California, Burns found evidence of similar frauds in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Colorado. Secretary Hitchcock then assigned Special Agent Colonel A.R. Green. Hitchcock assigned Green to Oregon. Unfortunately, Green was not a quiet investigator, proceeding with what critics called one brass band playing in front of him and another in his rear. That's
Oh
what
my
they
God.
said. They
Wow.
said that, not me.
You didn't make that up?
I was going to
I
say,
did not make
At the
that up.
end,
That's
he
what
said,
they
I'm going to
said.
go home and sleep with my wife.
I'm not a quiet pooper, but you know, it's not a brass band back then.
I don't know. I think Rich would probably accuse me of having a brass band in my rear.
I was going
my
to say,
God.
I might know somebody who can.
I'm still trying to figure out these old-timey insults.
They're the best.
You got a brass band behind you there. What? Does that even... What?
Don't talk to me like that.
Despite this, his investigation led to Sad P.
Oh, you're
Our
right,
Stephen A.
sad
Pewter. We come back to him. Pewter, which now I say Pewter.
Pewter.
He was Putin. He was Putin all over the place.
Pewter.
Along with Marie Ware, Emma Watson, Horace McKinley, and Dan Tarpley were indicted in 1903 and brought to trial the next year. Prosecutors Francis J. Henney and John H. Hall, remember the name, handled the case. Pewter confessed to the jury, admitting he had paid a $2,000 bribe to Senator Mitchell. So now Senator Mitchell has been brought into this case. So on December 6, 1904, the jury returned a guilty verdict for all defendants except Marie Ware, who was acquitted. Additionally, Frederick Hyde and John Benson, those were the Arizona land fraud kings, were charged with fraudulently obtaining titles to school lands in California and Oregon and with bribery. This was widely reported on January 1st, 1904. On February 17th, we're back to Juiced. Juiced J. Schneider was arrested by Burns with bail set at $35,000. That's equivalent to $1.2 million today.
Wow.
Excellent.
Excellent. What year was he arrested?
1904.
1904. Got it.
Long story short,
Too late.
thank you. The trial, delayed multiple times, began on April 1st, 1908, 4 years later.
Wow.
On June 22nd, guilty verdicts were returned for Hyde and Schneider, while Benson and Diamond were acquitted. But according to Pewter, the scheme's ringleader was John H. Hall, the then U.S. District Attorney for Oregon, and was the one of the prosecutors in Pewter's case.
Naturally.
Oh, naturally. And 4 years. I mean, that sounds like our current
Right.
legislative system.
Pewter claimed George Sorensen, another guy we didn't even talk about, offered Hall a $5,000 bribe to squash the indictments against Pewter, McKinley, Ware, and Watson. The president removed Hall from his role as U.S. District Attorney. Henley later indicted Hall for failing to prosecute land companies engaged in fraud and for using his knowledge of illegal activities to blackmail political opponents. Hall was found guilty in 1908, but was later pardoned by President William Howard Taft and returned to private legal practice. Initially, over 1,000 indictments were issued in the case.
Oh, my God.
But
That's pretty good.
yeah, Henny narrowed it down to the 35 most egregious offenders. He persuaded Stephen Pewter to cooperate, leading to charges against Senator Mitchell and Congressman John N. Williamson, both indicted on December 31st, 1904.
Oh, Happy New Year.
Yep,
Yeah. So wait a minute. How many indictments did they narrow it down to?
35.
You know, we had
wow.
one dude recently that had very, very close.
I know. This was 35 separate
I know.
people.
That's
And
a
that's
bunch
just-
of people.
Well, that's indictments. Those are felony counts. Those
I'm
34
sorry,
felony
you're right.
counts in
Very
one
close.
single indictment.
For one dude.
Wow. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Wow.
4 indictments, 88 counts. It was 91, but 3 were dismissed in Georgia.
Aw.
So on July 3rd, 1905, Mitchell was found guilty of using his position to help a client of his law firm acquire patents to fraudulent land claims, accepting bribes, and falsifying evidence.
By the way, today he wouldn't be able to be prosecuted for that.
That's true.
Oh,
He
dang.
was sentenced to 6 months in jail and fined $1,000.
Oh, that's actually a pretty typical sentence for a first-time offender, assuming he was a
like
first-time
6
offender
months.
for a nonviolent
Well,
crime.
first caught.
Yeah, I was going
Not
to say.
offender.
First time he got
There's a
caught.
difference between offender and caught.
Well, in the sentencing guidelines,
Right.
yeah.
Mitchell appealed, but died from complications of a tooth extraction a few months later.
Egads.
Isn't that the
Oh, my
dream?
goodness. Wow.
Williamson
That
was,
makes my teeth hurt
I
just thinking
know.
about that.
it was the 1900s.
Die. Oh, that's right. It was old-timey doctors, right?
Yep.
Like, oh, you got ghosts in your blood. You should do cocaine about it. That's
And if
so
that
that's
doesn't help, pour some laudanum on it.
laudanum. That's how you die from a tooth extraction. It's
That's right.
probably the
Also,
medicine used to
Stick a leech in
treat
there.
it.
Suck on a leech, you'll be fine.
Suck on a leech.
Stick some coffee up your
The
butt.
leech sucks on you, Shane.
Put a brass band in your butt.
Williamson was also convicted, but his conviction was overturned by the Supreme Court in 1908. Letting criminals get away with it since 1908. The
Oh.
Supreme Court.
Since before that.
Right.
Yeah.
But
telling
yeah, I mean, we go back to Reconstruction if you want to.
So what happened to our good buddy Stephen Pewter?
He wrote
Sad
a book.
P. He
from
wrote a
jail.
book. He did. He wrote a book from jail. His and McKinley's sentencing was deferred in exchange for testimony against Mitchell and Hall. But in the meantime, he fled to Boston. Now, this is where things get wild. Detective Burns chased him down and took him into custody in 1906. But 30 minutes later, Pewter suddenly drew a revolver, and after a fight where Pewter slammed Burns against a wall, he ran away down an alley. He was able to make his way to Alameda, California.
Whoa.
From Boston.
Yeah,
that's-
which that means
Wow.
that's like 4 trains and like 10 days.
Oh, yeah. That's
Well, he's
that's a
got
couple
buddies
weeks.
in the train business.
Ah,
from what I
true.
understand.
True story.
The
Man.
train business.
So he made his way to Alameda, California, where he took rooms in a lodging house before visiting his wife in Berkeley. The Secret Service quickly learned of his presence because he's just running around visiting people and apprehended him on May 20th, 1906. The Secret Service men said that he did not willingly resign himself to his fate, but showed fight and attempted to draw a revolver. He continued to resist arrest as they took him to the station. Upon inspecting his room at the boarding house, they found a Winchester rifle and a Colt revolver, which they described as an arsenal.
Well, they shouldn't look in my closet.
He was sentenced to 2 years in Multnomah County Jail and a $7,500 fine.
What is it about Multnomah?
I don't know. The serial killers and
9 out of 10 true crime stories I watch come from Multnomah.
So while in jail, he collaborated with Horace Stevens, a former general land office clerk, to write a tell-all account of his exploits. Looters of the Public Domain, which I gamely attempted to read for this episode, but like I said, I gave up after 7 chapters because it was so boring. Pewter was pissed off because Senator Mitchell threw him under the bus and said, I didn't do anything. It was all Stephen Pewter. So he decided to write this book from jail as his revenge. He was like, I'm going to tell everything.
I am your retribution.
And he had 2 years to sit around in jail and write this.
So this is a revenge book.
It is a revenge book. He was pardoned by Teddy Roosevelt and was released on his 51st birthday in 1907. He died on May 10th, 1931, so he lived quite long after that at the age of 75. Now his partner, Horace McKinley, had a more flamboyant end. After the trial, he and Marie Ware were married in Chicago in 1905. It was reported that after the wedding, they visited La Crosse, Wisconsin, where Horace has relatives. Now, this is important. Why?
Did Emma Watson come and shoot them both in bed?
So maybe he was back to his old tricks, because the Polk County Observer reported on October 5th, 1905, that he had been observed spending a week in the Deschutes timber with Paul McHugh of La Crosse, Wisconsin. And then new evidence turned up that implicated Pewter and McKinley in a new fraud dealing, selling fake land certificates to timbermen in Wisconsin with forged documents after they had already been convicted of the other land fraud trial. So they get out of jail and they go back to their dealing, but apparently there's a bunch of suckers in Wisconsin. I think that's just where all the timber barons were.
That sounds familiar.
It was finally confirmed that Horace had fled the country to China, accompanied by a woman described as a Little Egypt dancing girl. So now Little Egypt was a common name for belly dancers of the time that would do these kind of exotic belly dances that had that Eastern mysticism sort of thing. So he had been spending a lot of time at this theater where she was performing.
Greek restaurant?
Yeah.
No doubt.
And had become enamored with her. And apparently she felt the same way because she went off to China with him. He had just gotten married, by the way. Like, he got married in May. This is December.
Oh, wow. Well, that didn't last too long.
Too long.
Man, the honeymoon is over fast.
Yes. Stories reported that he had started a brokerage firm in China, which failed, and then ended up running a roulette wheel at a casino in China. He was arrested in Manila and sent to a prison at Tenzin. Is that how I would say it? But he escaped prison before, because they were going to extradite him to the U.S., but he escaped prison before an officer from Portland could arrive. But he was recaptured a few weeks later in Manchuria.
Was he a candidate?
Of course. Of course.
He was finally transported back to the United States in February 1908 and arrested as soon as he stepped from the gangplank of his ship in San Francisco, then immediately put on a ship to Portland. After spending a week in the same cell recently vacated by his buddy Stephen Pewter, he was sentenced to 2 years and fined $7,500. When learning he was avoiding prison time and was instead going to be in county jail, because prison here was McNeil Island.
Ooh, if anybody knows McNeil Island from the Northwest, that is not someplace you really want to go.
No, we need to do an episode on McNeil Island.
It is. It's a podcast on its own.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would run for years and years.
That's where a lot of
stuff happened.
Bad
in McNeil
people
Island.
went. Yeah.
Yeah. Not only the people that went there, the stuff that happened on the island. And you can see it from I-5 driving towards Olympia. It's fantastic.
It's plopped right down in the middle of the Puget Sound.
That's
Beautiful.
correct.
Well, that means at any minute it'll be a reality show.
Oh, there we go.
Very soon.
Or a
Starring
resort.
Joe Rogan.
MILF Island.
MILF Island.
So when he learned that he was avoiding prison time on McNeil Island, he threw his hat into the air with joy. His light sentence...
Just picture Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah. His light sentence was a preliminary to McKinley becoming a witness for the government in cases yet to be called. This is very familiar. There was a pervert that died in prison that had a similar setup. During his
Pervert in
tenure
prison?
at the county prison, frequent criticisms were made of the freedom accorded to the convict. It was said he was doing little more than eating at the jail at government expense, otherwise at liberty to come and go as he pleased.
Jeffrey
I
Epstein.
was going to say,
Thank you.
God, you beat me to it. Damn it.
What other pervert died in jail? Oh, there's probably a lot of those. Doesn't narrow it down
But
much.
part of his sweetheart
two.
deal given to him by Acosta, who Trump then later made his Secretary of Labor.
So gross.
It was day release, like work release.
Yeah, he it was like it reminded me of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, where he's like, "Oh, jailer, I would like to use the phone."
yes.
You know, and he's like, "What kind of jail is this?" No, it wasn't Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. It was My Blue Heaven.
My Blue Heaven.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he was picked up from jail in his limo
Yep.
to go to work. for
Let
the
out at
day.
8 o'clock
Yep.
every morning. So
So
Monday
he was,
through Saturday too.
McKinley was granted privilege such as taking a steam bath at a bathhouse across the street from the jail every day. He was given an hour and a half.
In San Diego, bathhouses they're different.
I don't know if that was the same in Oregon. He ate at the same table as the jailer and Sheriff Stevens' deputies. He was not obliged to work, and his wife had access to his quarters at all times.
Sounds awful.
He was released from jail in November of 1909 and then arrested just 1 week later and brought into court for trial in the suit brought by the La Crosse, Wisconsin timber barons. So this case brought out even more heavy hitters. Attorney Franklin Pierce Mays, who had represented Stephen Pewter and the railroad company, was finally implicated for his roles in the frauds. Millionaire lumber baron C.A. Smith and his attorney Frederick A. Cribbs were brought into the case, and they were found guilty in September of 1910. Entitled to 37 quarter sections of land in Lynn and Lane counties in Oregon was canceled and returned to the United States. So during these trials, they were able to take some of the land back.
Good.
Horace Greeley McKinley died on April 28th, 1934, at the age of 65. His obituary noted his part in the Oregon land fraud trials and that he was later active in the Montana oil business. So he went on to do just fine. Okay, and that's as much information about the Oregon land flood trials that I could fit in one episode.
Land fraud.
Land flood.
I was like, wait, I didn't hear about the flood.
Land flood trials.
Flood.
Why is the world in love again?
This was a toe dip into the world of land fraud that happened in the late 1800s throughout the country that I had never heard about before. And I bet that you guys hadn't
No,
either.
I had no idea.
So this was all news.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being on here.
And I can't wait to tell all the Leguminati to come and take a listen.
I will love
All right.
it. And you can find Allison Gill on the Daily Beans podcast, Clean Up on Aisle 45, the Jack podcast, and I mean, just generally out there
Much more.
doing political. She's doing the Lord's work.
Doing the Lord's work.
Doing
the
it.
Lord's work. You can follow us on all your podcast platforms, but go to our website first for everything, rainydayrabbitholes.com. Make sure you tell a friend, please. That's the best way to support us. You can also join our Patreon where you get bonus episodes like our Bigfoot erotica episode, which we'll just send to you, Allison, for your
Thanks.
gracious to turn off.
They will send to you so you cannot listen. No,
Exactly. So you can be like, what the fuck?
Bigfoot erotica.
They are Bigfoot perverts. So thank you so much, guys. We will see you next time.
See you down the rabbit hole.
Oh, that's right. It was old timey doctors, right?
Yep.
Like, oh, you got ghosts in your blood. You should do cocaine about it.